Ladies and gentlemen, the Alabama Senate will now come to order. Our prayer today will be delivered by Pastor Matthew Durham of Union Grove Baptist in Fort Payne, Alabama. Pastor Durham is the guest of Senator Andrew Jones. Pastor Durham.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we love you today. God, we thank you for this opportunity. Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, and we just come to you today, God, as just simple people. Lord, just with humble hearts, and Father, we just ask, God, that everything we would do here today, God, that you would just give these men, these women, Lord, their staff, God, just the utmost wisdom, the utmost clarity of your direction, not ours, not what we wish, but Father, just simply what you would have us to do. God, direct their paths, direct their minds, direct their hands, direct their speech today. Let everything be done in a cordial way. And Father, most of all, let everything be done, God, to bring you the most upright and holy glory that you are deserving of. God, we ask all this in the precious, wonderful, and mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Durham. Today, the pledge will be led by Lieutenant Governor Intern Olivia Zellner. Olivia is a student at Auburn University. War Eagle.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Olivia. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shellnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have 29 senators present, which is a quorum. The Senate is ready to transact business.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that we excuse absent senators.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that we dispense with the reading of the journal from the previous legislative day and that we adopt said journal.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Now move on to introduction of bills.
Mr. President,
Senator Chastain.
I make a motion we receive bills throughout the day.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. President,
Senator Smitherman.
whenever it's appropriate, would you recognize me for a moment of personal privilege?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, today our moment in Black history is the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 is a landmark piece of federal legislation in the United States that prohibits racial discrimination in voting. It was signed into law by President Lyndon Baines Johnson during the height of the Civil Rights Movement on August 6, 1965. And Congress later amended the act 5 times to expand its protection. Designed to enforce the voting rights protection by the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment to the United States Constitution. The act sought to secure the right to vote for racial minorities throughout the country, especially in the South. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, the act is considered to be the most effective piece of federal civil rights legislation ever enacted in the country. The National Archives and the Records Administration stated, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was the most significant statutory change in the relationship between the federal and state government in the area of voting since the Reconstruction period following the Civil War. The Act contains numerous provisions that regulate elections. The Act's general provisions provide nationwide protection for voting rights. As initially ratified, the United States Constitution granted each state complete discretion to determine voter qualifications for its residents. After the Civil War, the Reconstruction Amendment was ratified and limited in certain discretion. A nonviolent campaign in March 1965 by voting rights marchers in Alabama culminated in a televised brutal attack by the state police on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. The outrage over this incident prompted national action in Congress and spurred by President Lyndon Johnson, who signed the act into law. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you all for listening to our moment in Black history. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Senator Smitherman. At this time, I'd like to recognize some special guests in the gallery. The guest of Senator Kitchens, got some realtors from Marshall County. Also, they work for Ainsworth Real Estate. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right, now move on to a motion. Do you want to be recognized? All right, point of personal privilege. You're recognized, Senator Stewart. I want to turn your mic on. All right.
Mr. President, I thank you for this opportunity as I rise for a moment of personal privilege, point of personal privilege. I want to just talk about my tie today. Today, this tie represents my beloved alma mater, Tuskegee University. The president came to visit me this morning, and I just want to share an important fact about Tuskegee University. Tuskegee University created the first extension program in the state of Alabama. The first. And other organizations, other universities modeled. The first extension agent in this country was an African American who was a professor at Tuskegee, and his name was Thomas Monroe Campbell. If you go to Tuskegee University, Campbell Hall is named after him. And I just want to rise to express my gratitude to the state of Alabama, because Tuskegee receives an appropriation from the state of Alabama. Tuskegee is a state-related institution. However, I do want to discuss, while we're grateful for the appropriation that the state gives, I want to speak to the underfunding of Tuskegee University and how the state has abdicated its responsibility. How much time do I have? The state has abdicated its responsibility and has underfunded Tuskegee University year after year. And I want to say this funding is mandated by USDA. And the Department of Education, the Secretary of Education and Secretary of Agriculture wrote letters to governors of 1890 land-grant universities. So the Morrill Act of 1862 created 1862 land-grant universities and 1890 land-grant universities. And Tuskegee University is a 1890 land-grant university. And based on the calculations, the state is required to do a match is supposed to match the USD federal funding. And based off the calculation, the state owes Tuskegee University $470,470,074.57. Now, the state is really, the true calculation is over $950 million. However, Tuskegee University, since we're a state-related school, they're not asking for the whole sum. And they're also not asking for the entire amount at once, even though the state has the lump sum funding. They're asking for a 10-year, 3-to-1 match. Due to and this is to make Tuskegee whole. You know, this funding, it funds research and extension programs are key to economic development. And Tuskegee serves many of the counties in my district in the Black Belt. And so this is key. My communities have been underserved as a result of the colossal disparities that we have. And so, Mr. President, I just want to bring this to everyone's attention, put this on everyone's radar, that Tuskegee University will be engaging with legislators to inform them of this essential and prevalent issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Stewart. All right, now move on to motions and resolutions. Any motions or resolutions?
Have a Senate Joint Resolution.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the Senate Joint Resolution, please.
Senate Joint Resolution 12 by Senator Chasteen recognizing the month of May 2024 as Fanconi Anemia Awareness Month in the state of Alabama.
Senator Chasteen.
Mr. President, I'd like for the motion to be read. Resolution to be read.
All right, Secretary, read the resolution.
Senate Joint Resolution recognizing the month of May 2024 as Fanconi Anemia Awareness Month in the state of Alabama. Whereas Fanconi anemia, FA, is a rare inherited DNA repair disorder that affects bone marrow and many other parts of the body. People with FA have an increased risk of bone marrow failure, physical abnormalities, organ defects, and certain cancers. And whereas research has shown that FA is a cancer susceptibility disease caused by faulty DNA repair, and individuals with the disease have an extremely high risk of developing cancer at a young age. Individuals with FA are hundreds of times more likely to develop cancers such as leukemia, head, neck, and oral cancers, gynecological cancers, and gastrointestinal cancers at a much earlier age than the general population. And whereas Fanconi anemia is a very rare, it occurs in 1 in 160,000 individuals worldwide. Most of the time, FA is diagnosed during childhood or young adulthood. It affects both males and females equally and is found in all ethnic groups. And whereas there are currently 23 genes known to cause Fanconi anemia, including the BRCA1 and BRCA2, which are better known as breast cancer susceptibility genes, the disease is primarily inherited in a recessive fashion, requiring an individual to inherit 2 defective copies of the same FA gene. And whereas individuals with Fanconi anemia require specialized protocols and heavily rely on research and clinical trials, research has resulted in better outcomes and longer lives for those with FA. And there is now a growing population of adults living with the disease. And whereas further Fanconi anemia research will benefit both individuals with FA and the general public through better understanding and mechanisms of DNA repair and cancer development. It can lead to improved cancer preventatives, cancer treatments, and ultimately a cure for FA. Now therefore be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that we declare the month of May 2024 as Fanconi Anemia Awareness Month in the state of Alabama and commend its observance to all its residents.
All right, Senator Chasteen.
Mr. President, had a young girl in my district that at age 6 was diagnosed with this, as we heard, very rare. And in October, she was in Cincinnati for a bone marrow transplant, and Friday she came home. She's 11 years old today, so I just want to celebrate that with the Farmer family, glad to have her back at home. At this time, I move for immediate consideration.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Chastain. All right, any other motions or resolutions? All right, hearing none, Senator Wagner.
Mr. President,
Senator
I
Wagner.
have a report from the Committee on Rules.
All right, Secretary Reed received the report from the Committee on Rules, please.
From the Committee on Rules, Senate Resolution Number 13, Special Order Calendar. Be it resolved by the Senate of the Legislature of Alabama that immediately upon the adoption of this resolution, the following business in the order set forth below shall be the special and paramount order of business for the fourth legislative day, taking precedence over the regular order of business or any pending or unfinished business. On page 1 of the calendar, Senate Bill Number 1 by Senator Gudger relating to absentee voting.
Mr.
Senator
President,
Wagner.
I move adoption of the report from the Committee on Rules using the short roll call.
All right, Senator Smitherman. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you can imagine living in this country and for 400 years, a 400-year stretch, you was not allowed to be able to learn how to read, write, and surely you were not even considered a full person for the opportunity to vote. If you can imagine, from the time that slavery was in to 1965, before we got a constitutional ability to vote, then if you could understand that, then you can understand the concern that we have any time that you are tinkering with the right to vote. We've had many people to die, so that simply African Americans could get an opportunity to vote. We had plenty of people, such as John Lewis, Congressman former, to get beat to a pulp on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, just so we could get an opportunity to vote. So see, we don't take this for granted. We don't take voting for granted. Because see, we didn't have the opportunity to be free like the majority in this country the whole time that we were here. We are behind about 400 or 500 years. And for the love of life, I don't understand why people think that we shouldn't be concerned with these issues. You know, when you haven't walked in somebody's shoes, you can't appreciate what they're saying. You can't appreciate it because you haven't walked in those shoes. When you've been able to live your life that you've had no reason to be able to come in contact with these situations, you can only imagine. You can only just imagine in your imagination what I'm talking about. Right now, we should be doing everything we can to enhance the opportunity for people to vote. We talk about these absentee ballots. For the love of life, why do we have to check one of these boxes or one of these places to say the reason why we are absentee voting? It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter whether I just don't feel like going on that day or anything else. What should matter is that I voted. that I voted. But we put all of these impediments in the way. We put them all in the way. And I feel compelled to make this particular statement is that, let me see, this is our second year in the quadrennium. So I would probably have to say a year and a half. It's been a year and a half since we had our elections here in Alabama. For the love of life, why are we focusing on national issues here when we have our own state priorities that we need to be looking at? It concerns me not about the goal or objective that I hear, which is fair elections, which is accountable elections. I guess that's what the right way to say it. I think everybody's for that. But see, this is one of those situations that it's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect everybody in this state. Part of it doesn't even have anything to do with this bill. It's going to affect everybody in this state. And I try to use an analysis of an airplane. If you can imagine when you get on a plane and you have an opportunity, if you sit in the aisle row, to look straight out of the window if they have the little door open, most times they have it closed, but where the pilot is sitting, you're looking straight down the runway and you're making sure that the path is clear. I summarize this bill is like that airplane. You're trying to look down the runway to make sure that all the aspects that pertain to absentee voting is clear. But one of the things in my analysis that I always say is this: when you have an airplane and it's going down the runway, you forget that the airplane has wings. And you're focusing down the aisle, down the runway, and you're looking at the clearness. And you're not seeing all the damage that the wings are causing because they're hitting all these obstacles, all these things that are on the side. Those are the things that we're concerned about. Some of those things have been addressed in the bill from its inception, but there are still several things that are left that needs to be addressed. So I hope as we go through this process that opportunities will be given to the people on both sides who have suggestions to address those issues that are incidental to what you're trying to do. See, you have to, I always say this, and so you can take this in the right perspective, is that when you being me, have not had an opportunity to sit in you all's caucus meeting and come up what you think this ought to be what we need to work with, when you, maybe like me, have not had an opportunity to be on the committee that heard this bill in committee, then that means that I have to have a conversation and interpretation about what we are doing in what's called the Committee of the Whole. The Committee of the Whole is this whole Senate. And that's why here at this mic and at this time, and as we go through this process, that you will hear discussion about that. Now, let me say something to you. The importance of having that process go that way and not necessarily trying to marginalize the presentations, the questions, and the follow-up conversations about this issue is simple. We live in a state with almost 6 million people, and almost 2 million of them are African Americans. That's a third of your population that you, right off the bat, that has a concern about this bill. And that must be addressed. Those are the kind of protections that I just talked about. That says for all people. And whether those people are 30% of the population or whether they're 70% of the population, those considerations have to be given to all the people. So I hope that as we move forward today, addressing this bill, that we will take due diligence, we will take patience, we will take open-mindedness, we will take consideration, and we will do what Webster says is the definition of politics, which is the art of compromise. I hope we can get to that point. And let me say this: we've been here long enough together to know that yes, this process affords a lot of latitude to the majority. But there's a moment in this process that it allows each side to have equal latitude. Let's don't produce a session where it becomes a session where, yes, I got you for the first 20 days, and then now we got to deal with the next 10. So let's don't do that. As we go through this, and as we go through any other difficult situation, let's approach it that way. Let's approach it that way. Because see, even though this is one bill, I talked about, how much time do I have? Okay. I talked about these kind of, I talked about these kind of calendars the other day. Now, and I want to say this. A couple people are going to smile when I say this. I understand the movement in doing certain things and not doing certain things at this moment. But the reaction is going to be the same whether it's later or now. So you can shelter it now, but then at some point, it's going to be before us. And that's why I'm talking. I'm talking because it makes no sense in doing that. It's kind of like we are, the way we are as it relate with bills. We have to be, this is the little word I use. So I just said that to say that this is what I'm getting ready to say. You take this calendar. We should have a bill on this calendar too. Regardless if it's one bill and what you're trying to get done, you're trying to isolate, I understand that. I've been here long enough. I've been in that seat up there, second in command, not first, but I understand that what we're trying to get done and what the attention to one bill kind of galvanizes us to look toward that. And that's important when you got people working, trying to come to something that's reasonable. That's important, don't get me wrong. But it's also important that we have representation in this body. And this ain't no representation of us, because we don't have nothing on here. Nothing. And because you reduce it to one don't mean we shouldn't have one. So when you plan to isolate committees as we have and only 2 meet, you need to put our bills in them 2 that meet so we can have the bill to come out. The excuse that is in other committees, but they ain't met, that don't fly. If you meet and getting bills out to make the agenda, put us some bills in those committees to get stuff out so we can also have something that's being considered out here. So I can't let that go unnoticed in the scheme of things as we move through our process. I can't, and we can't do that. Now, I was getting to, before I kind of eased off on that, was the simple fact that, we deal with about 300 maybe bills a session. And it's important to work together on one, because you may think that you shouldn't, not necessary, but we got 299 more coming. And surely, we don't want the process to be one of that nature as we go through this year. The second thing, we can't get caught up because it's an election year. I mean, that ain't got nothing to do with us. Not in here, it doesn't. I'm not talking about what you do outside or even what you feel or what you support or not support. I'm not talking about that. But we have to have the ability not to drag that in here. Not in our chambers, not in this session. We need to have our attention to the issues that's before us. We talk about literacy. We got that before us. We talk about Medicaid expansion, if you want to call it something else, whatever it is, we got to deal with that. We talk about a variety of these issues, a variety of them, okay? A variety of them. So we need to make sure, as we address this bill, that we take, as I said a few minutes ago, all those particularities and concerns under consideration. I'll give a model example of what we did in that regard so that you can relate to what I'm saying. We had a bill that dealt with gangs. And I just happened to look at the chairman of that committee, what made it come to my mind. And it started out, like I said about the airplane. Where the bill was headed was in a good direction, what the objective was. But as we began to look at the wings to see the unintended, and I have to say it that way, unintended consequences, we were able to put our heads together and come up with a process that eliminated the vast majority of the unintended consequences and address the same consequence. So I want us to take that as a model as we deal with this bill and in other situations that may be necessary to deal with that. No, all situations is not like that we have to do that, because all of them are not to that brevity. You say, what you mean? Just take today, for instance. We just passed a resolution from our education policy chair. See, the rules will let me say y'all title, but I ain't gonna call y'all names. the education policy chair we all was in agreement with it. We all felt, I felt it when you were, what you were saying. And I think that was wonderful, what you did. But I'm saying, so that shows what I was saying, that no, out of the 300, all of them ain't like that. It's not like that. But the few that is, the process, you know how they said when you get up and speak, they said protocol has been established. And so the protocol has been established, how to get to that
Senator
end.
Smithman,
Yes, sir.
your time has expired.
I'll stand and wait till I get recognized again.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, Secretary, call the long roll on adoption of the special order calendar.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shellnut. Mr. Singleton.
No.
Mr. Smithman.
No.
Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Tell you what, I about got killed there one time.
All right, 26 ayes, 5 nays. Special order calendar is adopted. Secretary, call the first bill.
Slid over to us.
I need you to help me get the one that'll.
On page 1 of the calendar, Senate Bill Number 1 by Senator Gudger relating to absentee voting, BIR pending.
I think that's it right now. I appreciate it.
All right, Senator Gudger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the being able to have a point of personal privilege for a second, if it's all right. Can I do that?
Now we're on the bill.
Okay, never mind. So we're going in and talking about
But you can
the bill?
talk on, or you're recognized, so you're welcome to talk.
I'll do that in a minute. So I'd like to go ahead and start talking about the bill.
You're recognized. You got
All
the
right,
mic.
thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, SB 1 is talking about something that I believe is happening in our state. Some people don't believe it is. There is proof that we have from different counties, from evidence-based data that we've received throughout the whole state, and there are certain counties that are doing this. This bill has been reviewed from groups for the last 9 months that have opposed this bill and is for this bill, and people that were agnostic about this bill. And I've met with everybody that I possibly could, from Mobile to Huntsville to Black Belt to the Wiregrass. Anyone that asked me to go to talk to them, I did that. I presented a substitute in committee to make sure that everyone knew that I had listened to their thoughts throughout the course of the last 9 months. And I had placed those in this particular substitute, which I believe caused some little bit of confusion the day of our committee of state government last week. From that, I've had different people on both sides in the legislature bring me some amendments that make sense and some that did not make sense. But the key is that the state of Alabama and the state legislature is listening to the people on both sides of the aisle to make sure that this is a bill for all Alabamians. And the key is that this bill, Mr. President, is not a Republican bill. It's not a Democrat bill. It's not an independent bill. This is a bill about voting rights and the integrity of our elections in the state of Alabama. And this bill is and should be a bill for every Alabamian. I had a quote that I found when researching this bill, and it states, "A democratic republic cannot survive if an election laws allow voters to commit fraud easily." Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, that is happening in certain counties, and we know it is, and so we're here to stop that today, and I believe this is the last leg of voter integrity laws that we need to make sure that we have a secure and safe elections, so that no matter what party you cast a vote for, that you know that it's going to be counted and that someone else in the same party or opposite party is not cheating, and that we have the best election integrity laws in the nation. Just to be clear before we start into some of these debates, this does not change anything with disabilities, as in deaf or blind, the veterans that are overseas. It does not change any of their status. That is all in the federal code, and we're not changing any of that, obviously, because we're at the state government, and they can still get assistance just like anyone else in the state can currently. You're going to hear a lot of different opinions about this particular bill today. And the key for us is that we walk away at the end of the day with the bill that's best for every Alabamian. I think that we should probably stop there because I think we're going to have debate, Mr. President, and I don't mind recognizing across the way my fellow colleague, Senator Singleton.
Senator Singleton.
Well, Senator, thank you, and I really want to thank you for your willingness to listen. And I heard you say you've been going across the state and visiting with people anyone who wanted to talk to you. And I have been one of those persons who've been wanting to talk to you, and you have given me your ear. While we may not have agreed on everything, we may not agree on everything before we leave this mic. However, I do disagree with the fact that, respectfully, that you're saying that it is happening. And I would love to see that data that is being presented across the state to say it's happening, because if it has been happening in terms of harvesting ballots, and if people have been paying people to do that, then I don't know why we haven't had more convictions on folks if they got the data to know that it's happening. So I just think that that's a force idea to try to bring this bill. I think there have been allegations of people saying things of that because people may not know of what's happening, but yet and still at the end of the day, there's only been alleged that it's been happening, but no one has proven that it has happened across the state of Alabama. And that's a big difference in alleging something that happened versus whether or not it had happened. And I just don't see it in the state. I think the state of Alabama has had one of the safest election cycles
Glad you said that.
than all of the other 50 states, other 49 states in the nation. While Georgia and other folks have cried out about what's been going on in their states, we didn't have all of that going on in Alabama. You know, the last time that I remember a voting fraud case to be tried was of a sheriff somewhere in the northern part of the state of Alabama. And with that, I think the crackdown through our Secretary of State office, through the aggressive laws that we'll pass here, has basically kind of smoothed things out here in the state of Alabama in terms of us having to do what we're actually trying to feel like we're fixing today. We're going through an unnecessary exercise here that I think that if there was real proof of something, I would stand here with you wholeheartedly and say, let's fix it. Because I believe in the free and fair spirit of an electoral cycle. I believe the fact that people should have every freedom of the right to vote. It seems like we're trying to encompass people more than we are actually opening it up and allowing people to actually have that free spirit to be able to vote. To be able to vote, we don't open up Saturday voting in this state. We don't do early voting in this state. Now we're trying to take absentees and make it a criminal process when we should be opening that process up. We make people have to say what they're doing an absentee for. And actually, when you look at the reason why absentee, you really make people tell a lie. We really almost force people to tell a lie as to why they're filing for an absentee. Because some of these reasons really just doesn't fit your circumstance as to why you're voting absentee. And I know, like in my areas, in rural areas, we are subject to have no jobs in our communities. Sometimes you will see the absentee numbers up a little bit higher. It's simply because people are going outside of the county to work every day. And they'll be gone more than that 8 hours. Some of them work 10-hour shifts outside of the county, and they don't get an opportunity to come back home. So if I'm an aggressive candidate, and that's a part of my GOTV, is to look at who's going out of my county. I should not be punished for being able to go out and get those absentees and have them to count for me. You're getting ready to punish me for being able to have some people to go out and get those absentee applications, to help with assistance with that, and to give people those assistance, or to go get disabled people who are not able to get out, could be bedridden, or people who are ill and couldn't come out that day, to be able to come out and say that they will be punished for voting if somebody go and assist them. We should not be doing that here in the state of Alabama. We should be allowing people to be able to open up the access to voting rather than closing the free access of voting. You know, people in my community died for the right to vote. We weren't just given that inherent right to vote like some of you when you turned 18 years of age. My great-grandmama used to have to tell how many jelly beans were in the jar just to be able to register to vote. And then when they were registered to vote, then sometime they was told not to go vote, and if they didn't vote for the right person, then something would happen to them. People's homes got burned. People's churches got burned because they were having meetings about going to vote. And here we are standing in 2024, and we still want to hold people back from that right to vote for something that's really not even happening in our state, called ballot harvesting. And I would just like to know, what is the definition of ballot harvesting? See, I don't know if this bill even defined what ballot harvesting really is. There's no clear definition that the new Secretary of State even define what ballot harvesting is, so that we'll know whether or not we're violating something or not. How are we going to pass a bill without a definition with
Senator
that
Singleton.
title, and there's no definition?
Senator Singleton,
Yes.
time's expired on
I
the
got
hour.
the sermon going, man.
I hear
Get
you,
my
man.
sermon on.
I heard you. You were fired up. All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Conley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott.
Good day, buddy.
Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger.
Aye.
Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
26 ayes, 5 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 1 of the calendar, Senate Bill Number 1 by Senator Gudger relating to voting. Committee substitute pending.
All right, Senator Gudger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. To address some of the comments earlier that we just heard from across the aisle, Senator Singleton, you know, this bill allows everybody to be able to vote, right? And we want to have access to the voting polls, and we want to have it freely and openly and get as many people to the polls as possible. I've heard that there's issues with this bill that limits people to be able to vote. That's not what this bill is about. To me, this is about for people to be able to get to the polls, to be able to vote who they want to vote for. Again, it's not a Republican bill, it shouldn't be a Democrat bill, it shouldn't be an independent bill. It's about getting people to the vote and making sure that it's a free and open and secure process to make sure that their ballot counts. And the key is right now, it's not always secure. This bill deals with that last leg of election integrity laws that we need in Alabama so that people can get to the votes, so they know, even if they're voting with somebody in their own party, that their vote's going to matter and somebody's not cheating in their own party to get there from campaign election cooperatives. So the key is pretty much what we're going to hear a second ago and the future of what we're going to hear on some of the opposing views is that we're going to listen to them. We've made these changes, and senators, if you're listening to the bottom line of what this bill represents, it represents that there is illegal actions that are happening that are stealing our elections on the current and the state level and the federal level currently. We have, again, evidence showing that in different counties. And, you know, we talked about different people that have been having fraud. I mean, we've got a list of people, page after page of different times people have had it and to do it. And so we've got evidence on that. That's fine. We can give it to you. At this time, I'll stop and recognize the senator.
All right, thanks, Senator Gudger.
I would love to start my first hour.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Senator, I hear your explanation, but again, and I saw you flipping some paper over there. I would just like to ask a question. Define ballot harvesting to me. And why isn't, let me ask you another question. Why isn't a definition in this bill so that we'll know what we are violating and what we're trying to change and where we're trying to go? There's no definition in the bill of what ballot harvesting is. If the Secretary of State had a definition, a firm definition of what it is, why didn't they put what ballot harvesting is in the bill? You just got a lot of underlining. This is new law that we're going somewhere that we're blind. We're flying blind. We're building this plane as we go, and we're trying to make something happen that's not even there. I would love to know. It's just like somebody, all y'all, people be using the word woke. What does woke mean? Like I got my eyes on? You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to punish me for being aware? So what is ballot harvesting? Could you explain and give me a firm legal definition of what ballot harvesting is?
You want me to go ahead and do that now?
I would love that, without losing my time and place.
That sounds good. First of all, definition is the bill, this particular bill, but it makes it illegal to pay or receive payment to assist voters in completing an absentee ballot application, known commonly as ballot harvesting. So there's your definition.
Known commonly but is that a firm legal definition of what ballot harvesting? See, that's what you see. That's just known commonly as. Hey, look here. My name is Bobby Same. I'm known commonly as Pimp Dad on the cut, baby. You know what I'm saying? When you get me in the neighborhood, I'm Dookie. Come on now. But my real name is Bobby Singleton.
Can we call you Dookie?
Call me Dookie. Some commonly known as, that Prince formerly known as. Come on, dude. Give me something that's real, because the Secretary of State don't know what it is himself. They just going on some red meat stuff that y'all pushing up from the National Convention to say that this is what it is. What a tangle where we weave. All right? So when you get hung up in this web, because we all run campaigns in here, people. Don't none of us in here get elected without running a campaign. And you better be sure of what you're voting on right now, because when you get tangled up in this old web that we're weaving right here, you're going to be saying, gosh, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish we hadn't done it that way. Same thing about the ethics bill. When the ethics bill was passed, didn't nobody go to jail but Republicans. And they came in and pushed it. Nobody but Republicans went to jail behind the ethics bill because they came in thinking that they was above the law. And you're going to do the same thing right here. You're going to be the only one, oh, what a tangle web we weave. You better watch it. We all run campaigns. There's nobody in here been running any illegal campaigns, because what you're saying that there's an indictment on those of us who are standing right here. We're about to indict ourselves on something that we don't do and we commonly do, and we do it right. None of us are out here just paying third parties to go out and get absentee ballots for us. We want to make something out of nothing when that is not the truth. The truth of the matter is, Senator, is that we have a good system that we run here in the state of Alabama, and we all wouldn't be standing here if we were doing all these wrong things that y'all been put on me like this here. Senator, you're a reasonable guy, and I like you a whole lot.
Amen.
You my dude outside of this. When 5 o'clock come, we throw the parties away and we go and party. You and I. But right here at this mic today, you can't believe in what you're standing up here doing. In your hearts of hearts, you got to know that this is not the way to go. This is just a political grandstand that you all feel that you got to do it in this election year. You better watch the web that you're weaving and the path that you're going, because you get tangled up in that web and can't get out. And I don't want to see you hung up in that, because I paid my campaign manager, who's on my staff, to go out and do and identify people who are going outside of my county, who are elderly, disabled. And let me tell you something, even people who are locked up in jail who has not been convicted and have not committed a crime of moral turpitude can still vote. Now there's some people who stand out here and say, look at them, they want to vote criminals. Well, you ain't a criminal until you're proven guilty. That's the American way of life. Your innocence is still there. Just because you're locked up don't mean that you have committed that crime. It is assumed, it is alleged that that's what you did. And so people can vote unless it's a crime of moral turpitude. There's a definition of moral turpitude. That's when we can find what that is. We don't have to assume what moral turpitude is, just like we're trying to assume what ballot harvesting is here. We don't have to assume what moral turpitude is, because the legislature has defined basically what a crime of moral turpitude is. So if you, in fact, that you're going to allow us to go out and get those absentees, I should be able to continue to assist someone. Because what if I run across someone who says to me, Mr. Singleton, you know, I can't read and or write, but they're a registered voter because they had assistance. Or someone say, hey, I don't understand the process, show me and help me do it. As long as a person seek your assistance, you should be able to assist that person. Okay? Mailing the ballot back in. What is mailing? Does mailing constitute when you put it on your front porch? Is mailing constitute once it sits outside the house where the mailman can pick it up? Does it have to be in an actual box? What is mailing? See, all of these unintended consequences that we're going to have to deal with that people are not thinking about, and we'll find ourselves in that tangled web that we're trying not to weave here. And so I say to you, Senator, you're a good dude. You're a good dude with a good heart. But good dudes sometimes go astray because they be led by other bad dudes to do bad things that you think that is good, and you think that you're doing something for the betterment of this state. If this was something that we were doing rapidly in this state, I would say to you, man, I would stand with you and say, hey, let's not allow this to be happening in our state. We're trying to make a better state, and we don't need to be trying to pass all these laws like Florida. Again, I keep telling y'all think we Florida 2.0. You know, we just a little Florida over here. Just because Florida did it doesn't mean that we have to do it. And see, if there was a definition, I could understand. In the process of doing absentees, it's something that the law allows us. We got military people who can do it from the federal level. We have people who are required to go out of town, who have 5-day business plans that you allow someone to know, medical emergencies. I think you're going to bring an amendment to deal with utility workers who may go out of town and be working on emergencies. Those are the kind of things that we at least give people the options to be able to have that free access to the ballot. We should not be making it hard for folks to go to the ballot. We should be making it much easier for folks to get to the ballot. And this is something what you do. This is just another lawsuit right here, man. This is a lawsuit waiting to happen. And before it can even get, the governor can get the ink on it good, I bet you there are going to be some lawsuits filed. And I may be the plaintiff. I may just well be the plaintiff behind it. Because we're talking about hindering the access of people having the right to be able to vote. And those people who are in nursing homes, those people who are in the elderly community, those people with disabilities, those people who are students who are out of town, who go to college and away from home and want to be able to get an absentee, but they still want to vote back home. They can do that. We should not hinder that to allow these kids to be able to do that. That if I identify them in my campaign, that Joe and Jim and Susie and Mary and John all goes to school at Auburn, the University of Alabama, Alabama State, Alabama A&M. They are in school at those institutions, and if I call them up and want to get them an application for the county, can I get them an application so that they can be able to send it back in and get that ballot, send it back in so that they can have the right, they can vote without having to miss school, coming home on a day and traveling because they don't want to miss classes. They should have that right. We should not take that right from them because the law allows it right now, and it should not be taken from them at all. This is what we should be doing. We should not be pushing something just because of a political grandstand. We should be talking about all the ways that we should be allowing people to have the free access to vote. Not all the ways that we should be stopping people from voting or hindering that free access to vote. We should be talking about how do we give people the access to vote. Voting is one of the principles of our democracy. The ability to be able to vote. It's one of the hallmarks of our democracy. This ain't just a vote for white folk or just for black folk or for people of color. This is a democracy of all of us. We live in a melting pot. So we should all have that access. Yes, there have been some of us who have been hindered from voting for years and years and years. You stopped my people from being able to vote for years. We had to march and fight and kill and do everything just to be able to have the right to vote. Our people got hung to have the right to vote. And here we are in 2024 that you're still trying to hinder people from having that right. So I think that we are going to talk about this bill a little while. This bill needs to be discussed. We need to go down this bill. We have some amendments that we're going to offer. We're going to offer an amendment basically dealing with the distribution. We'll be able to deal with an amendment that does a restoration of rights for people who have been disbarred from voting. We'll deal with, I think there's some other amendments coming with the question of what is a gift and whether or not if you gave somebody a piece of pizza, is that a gift of monetary value? Because if you're in a campaign office, if you ever worked in a campaign office, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. You have a lot of volunteers there. You also have some people who you pay. So, but if I guess it's okay if I could just round me up 1,000 volunteers and just send them out there. Well, I don't pay nobody. It's all right to go and do everything that we're trying to say. But if I give somebody $10 to go out there and do what we're saying, then that's going to be illegal, which is going to be subject to a beef and a C felony. That's crazy. They're doing the same thing. One, I just paid $10, but the other one is when I did as a volunteer and did it for free. That's a loophole. I can get around the law. I can get around the law. If we pass this today, I got enough people who like me and who want to work for me that I don't have to pay everybody that come in my campaign because they like the service that I give them. I might have 55 kids showing up that over 18 said, Mr. Singer, we want to work for you because we like what you do for us. I said, go out there and get them absentees for me. They volunteering. I don't have to feed them no pizza or anything. So that's not a violation of this law. And they're doing the same thing. So I guess somebody gonna write some up now to stop that. You can't have volunteers now, right? I'm just showing you how we can get around whatever you're talking about because this is just petty here. I don't have to pay anybody. I get volunteers. People volunteer in campaigns every day. So if it's a problem with someone going out and filling it out and helping someone fill it out, why should it be a problem with whether they volunteer and do it for free or I paid $10 to go out there and do it, or gave some gas money to go and do it, or gave them some pizza to go and do it. It's a big deal. But if they go out there for free, they can do it all day. They can do it all day. See, we don't think about all the things that goes on in a campaign. And I don't know how y'all run y'all campaigns. Maybe y'all got these automatic campaigns where, people just say you're automatically in. You don't really have to run. You don't have to put together campaign committees, and you don't have people that come in. I have 2 or 3 faces of my campaign. I have people who I pay to put out signs. I have people who I pay as consultants. I have people who I pay to do marketing for me. And then I have that get out the vote face of my campaign, which includes absentee ballots, applications, and also making sure that people working at the poll, providing food at the poll for my workers and people of that nature. All of that is a part of my Get Out the Vote campaign. And as we go through that phase of the campaign, if I'm paying the people, those folks who need to be paid, and if I identify that there's 75 folks in my district that need an absentee ballot, if they go out there and say, hey, Senator from Montgomery, I noticed that you work out of town. Do you plan on voting in this election? Yes, I do. Sir, do you know that you have a right to be able to vote by absentee ballots? No, sir, I didn't understand that I could do that by absentee ballot. Well, sir, would you like an absentee application? Yes, sir. What's wrong with me taking the senator from Montgomery an absentee application at that time? And that he fill out his application, and if he don't understand how to fill it out, then I can assist him at his request. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing criminal about that. That if the gentleman from Montgomery wants me to assist him, as long as I don't sign his or her name. And I show you, when you sign your name, this is your application, this is the mail, you put it in the mail, this is the address that you send it to, sir. Bam, 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 boom, just put it off in the mail. You will receive a ballot back in the next couple of days. By law, it says that the circuit clerk shall send your ballot back on the same day that they receive it. So whenever she or he receive it at the circuit clerk office, they should have that same day turnaround going back out to you, your ballot. You shouldn't have to wait no 2 or 3 weeks for your ballot. So it should come back out to you. Okay, ballot back out there. And Mr. Singleton, I got the ballot back. Hey, this is an affidavit. I don't know how to fill it out. Could you come back out and help me fill it out? Yes, sir. I can come back and help you fill it out. You know, you vote for who you want to. I ain't telling you who to vote. Bam, boom. So here you go. You put it in the mail. Boom. It's over with. What's wrong with that? That is not harvesting. That's not ballot harvesting. They mail their own, they sign their own name, they just ask for assistance. There's nothing against the law in the federal or state law that if a person asks and seek assistance that you can't give them assistance. There's nothing. Even in the ballot box, if they ask for assistance, you can give them assistance as long as you're not an employer of that person, the employer of that person. As long as someone from the table come and watch that process, you can get someone to come in who know you at that table, even if you don't have no ID on you. They have a process for that. That if you've left your ID, if you have people who are at the table who know you and familiar with you, they can attest that they know you. They can sign on that line for you and still give you your ballot and let you go and vote. That's even at the poll. Assistance. That's what we're trying to do, is to get people voted, more people to participate in this participatory democracy. We live in a participatory democracy. We don't live in a dictatorship. We don't live where people have to go and say, hey, can I go vote today? And you say no. We want people to come and vote. Because every time we lose in an election, we be talking about, shoot, people stayed at home, low voter turnout, they didn't even vote. Well, you're making it harder for them to vote. Those who want to vote, they get scared. Man, now this bill right here, because you're going to have a C or a D felony on, they're going to be like, man, I ain't making them absentees. You go to jail behind that stuff there. You see, that's the mentality that you finna put in people's heads, Senator. Whether or not somebody know that somebody coming, because you coming to me and you being paid, I might not even know nothing about you being paid. I might not even know nothing about you being paid. But now I realize that in my mind, and I hear on the news that tomorrow, as those guys there report, tomorrow, if you go do an absentee ballot, you could be charged with a C or D felony. Oh, I'm not touching that no more. You just disenfranchise people who may be elderly, who may be in a wheelchair or somewhere, because they say, I don't want to deal with that because I don't want to have to go to jail. Or people who work outside the county, I don't want to deal with that because I don't want to go to jail. You just put that into motion. You did more hurt than you did more harm than you did help. That's what you're doing. You're putting it in the minds of people, and there's somebody out there. Everybody may not feel that way, but there are going to be a percentage of folk that are out there that currently vote absentee that are going to walk up and say, hey, I don't want to do that anymore, because people can go to jail just by people assisting me with it, somebody helping me with it, or me asking somebody to help, because there's going to be a lot of misunderstanding on how it's going to get done as to whether or not I'm going to be able to go to jail or not, or go to prison if in fact that does happen. That's what's going to happen. That is going to be the mentality of a lot of people out there. They're going to feel like something is going to go wrong, and what you've just done, Senator, is disenfranchise an Alabamian from having the ability to right to vote, because they're going to feel like, if I do this, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. That's the problem. You ready to break up my speech? Okay. Y'all look like y'all concocting something up there. I see that look. Passing notes and all this good stuff like this.
We're not just recognizing somebody in the gallery.
Oh,
You good
okay.
with that?
I can do that.
All right.
As long as you ain't concocting no bacon, no cake over there on me.
All right, so we got a very special guest in the gallery, the mother of the one and only Garland Gudger. Dot Gudger, if you could please stand.
Hey.
Welcome to the Alabama Senate.
Mama Gurge, I plead to you, tell your son to sit down. Mama Gurge, please don't have your son over here like this.
All right. Thank you, Senator Singleton.
Thank you.
Mr. President, May I be recognized?
Well, Senator Singleton's got
Here's
the
my
mic. Do you yield for discussion?
I'll yield for discussion
All
without
right, so
losing
y'all
my
are
time and
recognized for
place.
discussion back and
That is
forth.
fine.
He's
I
got
know
the
we
mic.
went back and-
I didn't know your mom was here. I know she want to hear you talk, so I give you a little time to shine in front of your mother,
You're
okay?
a good man. You're a good man. We have went back and forth at different times on different issues about this particular bill. I know that we've sat down and talked. We've disagreed on a lot of stuff. At the same time, you brought some amendments that I've thought that I'm willing to look at and accept, and I think the body is. And we haven't told anybody about it. This has been between us to see if we wanted to get to that level. But I know there's been a lot that's been going on about that, and if that would be something that you wanted to go ahead and be bringing our way as we go forward, then we can more than willing to do that if you would like to. I know it's your mic, but I'm just saying if you want to discuss any of those, I'm more than willing to do that unless you want to talk about something else. But obviously, it's your mic.
Yeah, thank you so much, Senator. And I know we're going to get there, because I was kind of waiting on them to get another amendment over there together in terms of time. I think we got time. No, we got time. And I do, and you're right. You know, in as much as we stand here, as you said, we've gone through this exercise. We sit down like gentlemen, and we've come to some agreements on some language in this bill that I think is going to make this bill a much better bill. And I appreciate you for reaching out and in agreeing to that language. And I think it's going to make this bill a much better bill to get us in a different direction to where we are now. And I can get off the speech that I'm on, because then it would be, but I got to stay where I am until we get these amendments on, okay? And I know that they were working on some over here that I want to make sure, and I think that, and I want to be clear about the one where we are going. I think that there's one on restoration. Restoring the right to vote. And I know that there's another senator here that has at least one, and I think I have at least two more. One is being worked on where we're dealing with the distribution, trying to make sure that we get clear on who can carry it out, whether or not we're not penalizing folks for being able to assist someone if in fact assistance is sought from someone, okay? And or that our campaigns won't be penalized, or we won't end up being disqualified as electors, that if someone in our campaign or we direct someone to do a certain thing. See, what we don't understand is that there's a criminal act that comes back on us if you direct someone. Because the person to whom, if we say that we paid somebody to go out, if they come back and say, well, I did it at his direction, then you're just as guilty as they are. Okay? If you do it at their direction. So what they would say is that me as a candidate, I would have directed them to go out and do that. Okay? So do we want to prosecute ourselves for being able to send a group of folk out to do the work that normally in a campaign, the only way we're going to get that or bring it to the attention of the person that they can vote absentee and get them an application and allow them to at the direction of us, they will be going out. So if they come in and they go out to little Joe over here who's 18 years old and he said, I was just doing what Mr. Singleton told me to do. Now I'm just as guilty because he did it at my direction. And that wasn't the intent here. So now you and I as qualified electors could be disqualified from running at our office again because we would have directed somebody to do that particular job. That is a real problem right there. Because when we are in our campaigns, it's on us. It's just like filing your income tax. You can get H&R Blocks to file it, but the IRS is going to come at you. They're not going after the filer. But if I direct some people out there under this law, I could easily be prosecuted under this law as a candidate because I've directed them to go out and do this with that pay that they're saying in this bill. That's where the problem comes with me. I think we're not thinking this whole thing out. We're really doing some things that really is not happening in this state. The Secretary of State has not defined what it really is, and they got us over here arguing, and they somewhere sitting in their office. The direction is what makes it a criminal act also. So I can't direct you to do something and feel like my hands is clean. When you come to equity, you have to come to equity with what? Clean hands. You can't come to equity with dirty hands and say, no, I didn't do that. It wasn't upon me. But when I directed that young man or that young lady who's in my campaign to go and do that at my direction. And so I know that may be getting deep down in the weeds, but that doesn't stop the prosecutor from bringing that up. When they charged me to say that you directed them to do that. And so I just want to make sure that we understand where we are here today, and that we finna shoot out a web that we're gonna get tangled in, and we don't want to get tangled up in this old the weaving web that we're shooting out here. And so I just think that we're gonna bring out some good amendments that are gonna help this bill get better, that would allow us to be able to do it, that if in my campaign, and if I have someone on my staff, and my staff goes out and identifies someone to be able to do it. Or even look here, and I think one of the senators brought up a prime example today. I don't know about you, Senator, and I don't know about the rest of you, Senator, but I personally still knock on doors the old-fashioned way and ask people for the vote. Okay? And I commonly runs up on people who are in their homes and they're disabled. Okay? Who commonly I run up on in their homes and they're disabled. And I ask, can you get out to go vote? No, I can't. I just had back surgery. I'm not gonna do it. Or I'm in this wheelchair and I don't have no way of getting out. Well, would you like to vote absentee? Yes. If I have an absentee application with me at that time, here you go. Then, can I help them fill it out? Can you help me fill it out? Help them fill it out. They sign their own name. They mail it. What's wrong with that? Because I'm out there knocking on doors. We do that. Don't take away what we do. That's the art of the hustle. I know y'all guys have all that money in your campaign and y'all do all the big old pretty TV ads. You don't even have to knock on doors. You probably don't even come in contact with people. You know, you probably stand out there and just shake a hand at the grocery store. I still knock on doors. And I have 8 counties. And I try to get around all of them. I can't get to every door, but when I choose those communities, I knock on doors and my people get to see me. Let's not take away the process of what we do in an electoral process to allow people to participate. So y'all don't get out there on the hustle like I be doing. So y'all, again, I bet you be having them old big old pretty, you got big old pretty billboards that go up and down 65, vote Garland and Gertcher. You know, then you probably got, text messages going out, ads going out, man. Little country boy like me, I don't even have media markets like that around me. You know what I'm saying? We don't have billboards in the black belt hardly. But you gotta, I believe in being right here with the people, touching my people, touching my electorate so they can feel me, get to know me. I'm not afraid to go and answer questions. See, some of y'all don't want to go out where the people are and get absentees and things of that nature because you don't want folk asking you questions. You don't want folk asking you questions about some of your votes that you had. Or pinning you up. And how come that street ain't paved? Because you know they think we do all that also. You know what I'm saying? They think we should fix every pothole and everything. That's what they think. And I don't mind standing there and answering those questions, because these are my people. That's the only way I can get there is by their vote. And I stand before them and look them boldly in the eye and ask them for their vote. I've been running, and I've gone to my opponent's house and asked him for the vote. He vote? Why not? I'm not like, I'm call him up. Hey, I asked one of my opponent's wife one time. I said, hey, I know you're gonna vote for your husband, but if he ain't in the runoff, can I be your next choice? I asked him. They're electric, their name is on the voting roll. I don't mind going knocking on your door. See, y'all scared to go ask folks for the vote. But in that process, we do find people out there that needs to go through. That's why they put absentees in the law. In this handbook, this is the Bible for elections. They even got it black. This is the Bible for elections. This is it. This is what we go by our Alabama election. And in this election, absentee ballot is a process in here. Absentee application is a process in here. It shows you and tells you exactly what to do. It doesn't say anything in this book about ballot harvesting. It don't even give a definition about ballot harvesting anywhere in this handbook. It doesn't even talk about that. If that was a problem, they have it in the handbook. It ain't even a problem. It ain't in the handbook. I wish somebody showed it to me. I want to see those statistics that my friend said over there that he got from county to county, what is going on, and we ain't locked nobody up yet. I need to know. Don't be holding back the data. Don't just throw some papers up there and tell me you got it and you don't really have it. Your mama's sitting up there now. Don't tell me nothing wrong. I'm going to tell your mama on you. I'm a reporter now. Me and your mother gonna become friends. I'm gonna tell on you. So I just want you, I know your intent, your heart is good, because you're a good dude, man. You and I, since the first day you came in, we've been kicking it together. And then until you got this old bad bill, I don't know who got to you. Come on, man. But we're going to offer a couple of amendments, and I appreciate that. I think they're working on it. Well, look here. How much time do I have in my hour?
23 minutes.
Okay. All right. I believe in taking my hours, man. I don't want nobody else to say Bible singing didn't take his whole hour. I believe in my whole hour. You give me an hour, I'm going to take it. And see, absentee application allows for overseas absentee balloting. It allows for those soldiers who are out. It allows for emergency absentee balloting. And in this book, it has applications to show you for everybody everything that they have to do. This book is pretty thorough. Nowhere in this book does it talk about ballot harvesting. If it was a violation of the law, it'll be in this book. But it didn't make the book that time, soldier. Didn't make the book. Didn't make the book. Didn't make the book. So, but you finna make it a law to make the book the next time, all right? The next edition come out, it will be in the book, right? Boy, you done took me here today. But it's going to be a good bill when it finally get out of here, I hope. Look here, I hope that we can get to the point to where at the end of this bill that I can vote for it. I really do. I really do. I really want to get, because I believe in free and fair elections. I believe the fact that, that people, I believe in Alabamians. I believe that there are good people out there. And see, we're really talking about us. It's those of us who are running these elections are the ones that we're saying that are bad people. Really, that's who it is. It's us. It's the us that we're talking about. people at the city, county, state, and the federal level. Those of us who are elected officials. We're the ones that we're saying are really bad people because we're the ones who run these campaigns. There's nobody out there that independently goes out there and just do that without connecting to a campaign. We're the ones. So we're saying that we bad people. That's what we are. We're the bad people here. Oh, Mr. President, got a new president. I might be able to slip some stuff in on the Ricky now. So we're saying that we're bad people, and we need this law for us. Because we're the ones. We're the ones who host these campaigns when it's every 4 years. If we have opposition, it is those of us who are in this room and those people who run against us are the people who we're talking about. That does ballot harvesting. We're saying that we're the bad people. And obviously, it must have been us because we won. We're the ones who won. So we must be the ones who are doing all the ballot harvesting. Not the one who lost. Must be us. Because we did it better than anybody else. Now I want all of y'all to raise your hand who did some ballot harvesting. I bet you no hand goes up. So what's the problem? What's the problem in here? If none of you did it, if none of your campaigns did it, what's the problem? Why we need the law? What's the law? Why we need it? I don't see nobody raising their hand that you had ballot harvesting going on because we're talking about us. It's us who run these campaigns. So who in here did it? See, it makes no sense to me that we passing a law that nobody in here guilty of. We just want to pass something just to be passing it. Because it's cute. For the gentleman from Huntsville, Madison County. It makes no sense to me. Because the new Secretary of State wanted to get a new bill on. I respect him. I respect West. I mean, Mr. Allen for what he done. I saw him. He came from being a probate judge over to the House, and now he's statewide office. I give him my kudos. I like him. I like his dad. His dad. I like his dad a whole lot. Good dude. I just think he's wrong on this issue. I just think he's wrong on this one. I just don't think it's out there. I think it has been alleged. But no one has ever proved it. I'm gonna ask one more time. How many of you in here or in your offices have done ballot harvesting? Because we're talking about us now. Raise your hand. I don't see no hands. Maybe they're in their offices raising their hands. Maybe I need to give me a quorum call to get these jokers back out here on the floor. You know, because we're only talking about the people in this room, our colleagues downstairs, people in county government, people in city government, and those people who run against us. Those are the only people who get the opportunity. Judges, those are the only people who get the opportunity to ballot harvest. The governors, the constitutional officers. We're a unique small class of people who get to do this. So tell me who's been doing it. I don't know. If none of us are doing it, who? Then who? They need to be going to jail then. But your penalties in this bill, Senator, is only going to get people apprehensive about actually voting and doing it. Not that they feel that they're going to be doing anything wrong. I can see that happening. I know as a reasonable person, you can see that happening too. I don't think that that's the extreme. That's not way off on the left or the right end. I think that's right here in the center. That it's reasonable to believe that someone could see this as a criminal act and would not vote absentee because they think something could possibly happen to them and scare them from being able to do it. You know, because I don't do a lot of things because I'm scared of the law. So people abide, that's why we abide, law-abiding citizens, because there are penalties to certain things and people don't do it because of. Then you get those people who are out there, that percentage who disobey the law. And then they will get what they get. But you will give people that fear factor. And they will have that fear of being able to not come up and do something and vote absentee simply because it now becomes a new law. And you're gonna scare little Miss Mary, Brother John, Mr. Jim down the street who are disabled, and when they come on their local news, because they're gonna watch the local news, they say if you vote absentees, you're subject to be doing a felony if someone come and assist you with your ballot. And they're gonna just say, I'm sorry, I don't want to vote because I don't want to go to jail. I ain't able to go to jail. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to discourage a lot of people, and that's going to be disenfranchising people from having the right to vote. And so I say to you, Senator, while you bring this bill, I don't think it's necessary. I think that we're overreacting to something that has been alleged, where there has not been any actual doing at the level to where we need to codify this in our codes, and to where it will become the law of the state of Alabama, and because somebody else doing it in another state. We shouldn't just be doing it because y'all went to a convention and they said this is gonna be the next new thing. Okay? Because that's what happened. This group think, this is the next new thing, y'all. This is where we get them at. You know, this is where we get them. This is where we get them. And so, you know, you shouldn't be fooled by that because somebody lost about 3 million votes in this nation. He lost. We just can't set it up for him to win next time. He lost. Your dude lost, man. He lost. And so all of this is just happening behind a national election. Where dude just can't believe that he lost, that he was so popular that everybody loved him. I've lost before. We lose sometime. It happens in life. And so now we want to penalize everybody else, and those people, or that small section of people who really can't hardly even speak for themselves, because 90% of the people who vote absentee are disabled, who usually don't have that mobility to be able to stand up for themselves because of their disability, who really don't have that ability to be able to come to the mic and speak for themselves because of their disabilities, or students who are out, or military people who are away. You know, we can't stop that free and fair electoral process in a democracy that we say is participatory. We live in a democracy, and the hallmark and the foundation of our democracy is the right to vote. We don't have a democracy without the right to vote. That's what's so cool about America. That's why I love this country. That's why I love this state. Alabama is the greatest state of all 50. But we cannot hold Alabama back and allow Alabama to be in an era that where maybe y'all thought it was great again at. We got to move forward. We got to look out our windshield instead of our rearview mirror. Let's move forward. Let's open up election. Let's get Saturday voting. Let's do early voting. Let's allow people to have the free access to the poll, and you'll see a different democracy here in this state. That's what we should be doing, instead of trying to put penalties on people for doing something that they just want to be able to exercise their right to vote. We're wrong on this one, Senator. We're wrong on this one. This is all about a national issue that came about at a convention, that somebody said that this is going to be the new thing to get them, and you're going to get got. You can't out-cat the cat. You're going to get scratched. I'm telling you, man, You wasn't here in 2010. They came in with a sweeping ethic rule. The Speaker of the House went to jail. The majority leader went to jail. You had 2 or 3 other members of your party that went to jail with a sweeping law that they didn't think about these unintended consequences because they thought they was above the law. We all in this body right here run elections, and there's nobody in here running illegal elections in this body. So why are we willing to put this on us when it doesn't happen? It makes no sense. Maybe you got a hoorah corner in your district, they're gonna say, yeah, you put it on them. You showed them Democrats. But guess what? You gotta deal by the same rule that I do. It's the same rule unless y'all got something else going on over there that we don't know about. It's the same rule. So don't get hung up on your own rule, because we all run clean campaigns. We come down here, we're honorable men and women in this body. We stand up before people and we talk to people. We look them in the eyes and we tell them the truth. And I know you do, because you've been a man about it ever since you've been here. You'll see no difference in person, no race, no color, nothing. When you came in the door, you were making friends. And that's what I like about your heart. Somebody got to that heart. You went to that convention. You went to ALEC, didn't you? You went to ALEC. You went to that ALEC convention this summer. That's when you went. You went your first time and they hooked you. They done hook-winked you, man. You went to that convention. You went. I bet you didn't you go? Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
All right, Senator Singleton, you care if I recognize some special guests in the gallery?
Yes, please.
All right, these guests are the guests of all senators in here, the Alabama Association of Realtors. It's Realtor Day. If y'all could please stand, everybody in the gallery. Welcome to Alabama Senate. Great to have you all today. Senator Singleton, and a reminder, they do have a reception tonight.
Well, they better get to look at us now then. I hope they getting this look at us now. Hey, y'all, sorry we won't be able to make your reception because they'll be here all night. But yeah, I agree with that. We can go on recess, but we're going to come back. How much time I got? About 5 minutes? 8 minutes? I'm gonna let my hour, I'm gonna be short on my hour, man. And yeah, but I'm gonna offer an amendment, and then I'm gonna let you come and talk on my amendment, okay? Talk on the amendment. Do you want me to do the one on the restoration at this point?
Whatever one you want, that's fine.
I think this is the one I got ready.
Do the restoration.
Restoration.
I think that was a great idea.
All right, Senator Singleton. So we're on the committee substitute. We got to deal with that first.
Oh yeah, okay. We got to adopt the committee substitute.
Correct. Then we can do amendments.
Okay, that's where we are. Okay, we're on the sub. All right. Well then, since we're on the sub, I'm going to finish my 8 minutes out, and then we'll vote.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So, but in conclusion of my hour, and I'm sincere about this, I think that we are wrong on this issue. You and I may not agree there. You and I have agreed on the fact that there could be some unintended consequences that you and I have agreed on. But at the end of the day, we need to look at this in a totality of the circumstances. That if I go out and I direct someone to do that, I could be held guilty as well as you. And that's not the intent here. And you may not be intending to do that, to talk about what third parties can be. Who is the third party? How do we define who the third party is? There's no definition in your bill about who's the third party, okay? And we still don't have a definition of what is in your bill to define what ballot harvesting is, so that we'll know what we are violating. And that's why I know we can pass any law that we want because we are the legislature. We can tell these realtors they can't sell another house until Christmas.
I'm not telling them that.
See what I'm saying? But you can. We can pass that bill here today because that's what we are. We have that kind of power to do that. So let's be reasonable with this power. Let's not get intoxicated with the power that we have and just hindering people on their ability to have the right to vote. And that's what we don't need to be doing. And that's exactly what we're doing here. People have died for this. People have been hung for this right to vote. I don't know about you, but I see it happening all the time. That those people who are least have the voice are mostly being apprehensive about going to vote simply because of all the rules that we continue to put on people in their right to vote. Again, we should be opening this up, allowing people to be able to vote without hindering them at any point of this process. This is a political process that you and I know very well. You've been around long enough now. You're not the freshman anymore. You're not the new guy on the block. You understand this process. And when it does happen, again, in our next election cycle, I don't want you sitting back and say, man, I missed by 100 votes, because then I would have had somebody who we would have committed a felony. And then you lose by 100 votes. You see, we had a friend in here who won by 1 vote. Where he is? He's sitting right here. 1 vote. 1 vote. 1 vote. And it happens. It happens. And so this is our process. Why are we hindering ourselves, our constituency, the people who vote for us, the people who love us, the people who have validated us to be here, then we want to hinder them. These same people got to vote for you too now. Don't think you don't have no disabled folks in your district. Don't think that you don't have people who are elderly in your district that want to vote. Don't think they're all in my district. Don't think that they're all in Democratic district. They're in your district too, baby. They're in your district also. You got to think about that. Unless you just don't care about them, and I know that's not where your heart is. Bad bill. Somebody got to you. You went to that conference. You went to that convention. You went to that convention. I know what they be talking to y'all about. They make y'all drink that Kool-Aid. Make y'all sign them pledges that I shall not and I will not. I know it. Be a free thinker as I know you are. Okay? And so with that, I might have about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, if you don't care, I can recognize some more special guests in the gallery.
I'm recognizing another special guest.
Appreciate it. We have the Alabama Independent Insurance Association. If you're a member of that, if y'all could please stand. Might have already left. I've had this for a little bit.
Yeah,
but either way, welcome to the Alabama Senate.
Yes.
All right, Senator Singleton.
Yes. We're about to call a roll on the sub, all right? And then Senator from Coleman, once the sub goes, then I'm gonna come back and offer this amendment that you and I have agreed upon, okay? Now? I got 2 minutes.
Yeah, after one.
Huh? Here you go. After the amendment. Now we got to vote on the sub.
Oh, y'all finna vote on the sub?
Yeah, we're gonna vote on the sub. We're at the end of my hour now.
And then I'd like to talk.
Yeah, then you're right.
Vote to accept the sub, not adopt the sub.
Yeah.
Clarification.
To, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Senator Singleton, you want to make a motion?
Make a
Adoption of the
motion
sub?
to. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I don't want to make that motion to adopt it. I don't even want to be on record saying I adopted
All right.
the sub. I'll yield back to the gentleman. I don't want to be on record on that bad bill saying I adopted the sub.
I make a motion to adopt.
All right.
using-
Secretary, call the long roll.
Long roll, please.
Yeah.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen.
Substitute.
Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Conley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. No. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures.
Yeah, I gotta wait because Mom's there.
Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger.
Aye.
Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. No. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. No. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
27. 27 ayes, 8 nays. The committee substitute's adopted. All right, Senator Gudger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. I think we have some amendments that we're getting ready to talk about. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator Coleman Madison, you're
Senator
recognized.
Gudger, we spoke about this in the sub. It makes it sound like on page 53 that if you are making a request for an application or filling it out, that you cannot handwrite it, and most people do because you have to sign the ballot anyway. You have to sign the application form, and we've gotten with Legislative Reference Service. They agree that this language was rather ambiguous. I've spoken with Senator Gudger about this, and basically on line 53, let me submit this.
Secretary Reed, receive the amendment, please.
Amendment to the substitute for Senate Bill number 1 by Senator Coleman Madison. Replace line 53 on page 2 with the following: allowing a handwritten request for an absentee ballot in lieu of completing an absentee ballot application form to prohibit.
All right.
And I've spoken with Senator
Coleman
Gudger
Madison.
about this, and we've gotten with Legislative Reference Desk, and basically this clears it up because that's how most people fill out an application handwritten. And speaking with them, they said, well, we didn't really mean that. We meant that you could not hand somebody a handwritten note to request it. I think this clears it up to basically say that in lieu of, you cannot do that in lieu of filling out an application form. And that has to be completed handwritten because you do have to sign it.
So, Mr. President, may I be recognized?
Yeah, Senator Coleman Madison, you introduced
Yes,
the
sir.
amendment, right? You finished speaking on it? Okay, yeah, you're recognized, Senator Gudger.
All right, so Senator Coleman, if we can have some dialogue back and forth to make sure that you came up when I was kind of in the middle, so I said, hey, let's do this and try to put it together. This is going to strike the handwritten language, which was, again, is on page 3, 73 through 76 line item, which is the application form. So striking the language allows for a handwritten application for that to happen. And so on the handwritten application, you know, we've struck that out already. And so from what I'm reading on your amendment, though, you're saying you want to allow for that, is that correct? In lieu of completing handwritten form.
This clears it up, basically, to say that in lieu of, if you are filling out an application, you can fill the application out handwritten. But if you go to the registrars and request the form. You cannot write a handwritten note because they're talking about two different things. One is the request for the form, and the other one is actually the application.
After the application.
But it was sort of ambiguous the way it referred to it in one page as talking about the form, and then on the other one talking about the application. So that's why that hopefully will clear that up, that you cannot go to the registrar's office and write them a note and say, I'm requesting a ballot, an absentee ballot.
Yeah, I think the handwritten side of it, to fill in the ballots, I think we're both in agreement with, right? So
Right.
what we're talking about is somebody giving me a handwritten note about an application.
Exactly, that's what we're talking about, but it was not clear. In one place you mentioned about that you did not make the distinction between the form and making the request for the form.
I just want to make sure that's correct too. Can you talk for 1 second and let me just go around
Yeah.
and talk to Austin for a second?
So it really stood out very glaring when I looked at this, because I'm like, this can be misconstrued that a person cannot fill out the form, fill out the application form by handwritten, because it says to amend, where it currently reads, and this is the sub, to amend Section 17-11-4, to delete a provision allowing handwritten absentee ballot application. This starts with a bill to be enacted. So I'm just saying that clears that part up, that we are not talking about the handwritten application, ballot application. You cannot request a form by sitting and giving somebody a note.
I think we're saying the same exact thing. I just wanted to clarify that, and so I wanted to make sure because my head was in a fog when we talked earlier.
Right.
But it looks like we're saying the same thing on that anyway. So, Mr. President, have we got a motion and a second so far?
Do not have a motion.
I moved the amendment to the bill.
All right, would you like to use long roll?
You see,
All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Aye.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman-Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger.
Aye.
Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Ah. 34 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Coleman-Madison amendment's adopted.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, Senator
Chairman.
Coleman-Madison.
Thank you, Senator.
All right,
Mr. President,
Senator Singleton.
I have an amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment, please.
All right. That's the
Amendment to the substitute for Senate Bill Number 1 by Senator Singleton. Replace lines 85 through 86 on page 4 with the following. applicant declare that he or she is not barred from voting because of a disqualifying felony conviction, or if the applicant was convicted of a disqualifying felony, that the applicant's right to vote has been restored. Replace line 91 on page 4 with the following: shall be manually signed by the applicant under penalty of perjury, and if he or she.
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator Smithman.
could I be recognized?
You're recognized.
Okay, thank you. Senator, I think that it's one of the things that you heard me talk earlier about is that we need to try to engage as many of our citizens to be able to participate. And I think that, we've addressed this issue somewhat in another bill or something, but I don't think that we addressed it as it relates to these issues and these charges. I think that if we're going to allow people to vote, we need to provide the opportunity to them to get their opportunity to vote, back, and I'm a believer that, when you have a situation and a person has done whatever they need to do and met all requirements or whatnot, then I think at that point, you start your point from the beginning all over again. I think that it goes to, if you remember, when we talked about the jobs and the jobs application, that if a person has done whatever they need to take care of to society, then they need to have an opportunity to get a job. And the same thing applies, I think, when it comes to voting. That you said something that I thought was profound, and I knew I knew you knew what you were saying. I'm gonna quote you, since you've been at this mic. It was something you said. You said that this bill is the final leg for us to be able to get security and accountability. You said some other things too, as it relating to voting. Well, and I like what you said in that regard, because I've dealt with other issues that I won't talk about right now, that for the last 2 years, or last 2 out of the 3 years, because that's when I've had to deal with the same issue, is that it was an understanding that it was supposed to be over. The compromises and, and the decisions and things, that was supposed to be the final time that we kind of pulled things together. And unfortunately, in those situations, it wasn't. But I like what you said, because if we're going to address and get these things addressed and dealt with, this is the time for us to kind of look at them and see how we can work to get those done. So as it relates to this amendment, I support it. I will wish and hope that you're able to do so also in the body, so that we can provide that opportunity, the window, to still have a pathway, that whatever those steps that they need to go through to do that. And I'm not here to define those at all, but surely if we have a pathway, then we can be able to understand then how we can best provide an opportunity for them to be able to vote again. You probably, I don't say it as much now, because at those times when I would say it would be at my moments of personal privilege, what I'm getting ready to say now. But now, of course, we use right now, to share with the moments of Black history at that particular time. But I would usually say this. And this is why I said that whatever process is established, I will get to the mic and I will say, this is usually on Tuesdays, I will say, especially before you came out, you said all the time, I said, Tuesday morning, Roger Smitherman reported for duty and work. It's my job to take your rules and your tools mean special order calendar, your rules and your tools, and be successful to accomplish the goals that I'm down here to accomplish for the citizens of Senate District 18. So that's what I'm saying in that vein, is that I think the bill will allow a pathway. Now, whether they complete the pathway, that's up to them, but I think that if we allow a pathway for a person who has done everything that they need to do, as they move forward, to get a chance to participate in our voting process, then I think that we should consider that and give them a chance to do that. So that's where I sit, and with my support on this particular amendment, and that and at this time I don't mind yielding to you, and if you have any comments or anything that you
All right, Senator Gutcher.
Thank you, Mr. President.
without losing whatever you call the time, place, stuff. I'm not here filibustering neither.
With the way the amendment is put together and what we've talked about, if somebody has been incarcerated over the years, have come back, and they went through the judicial system and restored their voting rights to be able to do that, they shouldn't have to be able to list all the felonies that they've had on there. They should be able to check that box, say, I've got restored rights, instead of doing that. That's over in their past part of their life. So with the amendment that we've drafted anyway, I would like to make a motion to adopt the amendment as we go forward.
Using previous roll?
Using previous role.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you,
I think
Senator.
it's very important for the people that have done what was right over the years. And so,
Hold on one second,
Thanks for
Senator
doing
Gudger.
that.
Hold on just a minute.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Singleton amendment's adopted. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
At some point, Mr. President,
Yes.
when he presents his amendment,
Who was that? Senator
Jones,
Senator Jones.
I would like to speak on it.
Okay.
I'm in support of it at that. But it's he and I briefly talked about there are some additional things, not on his amendment, but that we need to consider that relates to his amendment, and I'd like to have opportunities.
You'll always have an opportunity.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to dialogue with the gentleman.
All right, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, I want to commend you for this wonderful legislation you've been working on. I know it's been a lot of work, hearing from a lot of people. This is an important issue for my constituents. I hear every day about stories about things that are going on that shouldn't be. And I think this is timely, very important. We need to address this issue. And so I just want to thank you for your work on it.
I appreciate your help on helping me get all this together, and so thanks, Senator Jones, for doing that. I think it's important for every Alabamian and the voting rights of everybody that's going to the polls coming up as well. But I think this is something that will last for years and years. That is the right thing to do.
Right. Our democracy and our Constitution stand on the principle one person, one vote.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. I do have a point of clarification that I'd like to offer, and I know the sponsor has agreed that it's a friendly amendment, so this time I'm going to go ahead and introduce that. We'll speak about what
All right,
it is.
Secretary Reed received the amendment.
Amendment to the substitute for Senate Bill 1 by Senator Jones. Replace line 98 on page 4 with the following. Required on the application form, other than marking the specific election to which the application applies.
So I'll speak about this and just explain what it does. So we want, if someone is giving out an application, not a ballot itself, not taking a ballot, getting a ballot, receiving a ballot, this is handing out an application for a ballot that they can select on the application which election it is. The reason this is important is because we have way more types of elections than many people would realize. You have primary, you have primary runoff, you have the general election. What if you have a special election? The form actually has special election as a box, and it has a blank beside it. So you would have to write on there special primary election, special primary runoff, special general election. So it really could be confusing. A lot of folks that are not in the political realm like all of us down here, they don't really know sometimes which election it is, because think about it, this year we're in March with our primary, in April or late March with our runoff. 2 years from now, our primary will be in May, and the runoff will be at the end of May, 1st of June. So for that reason, I think it's necessary that we allow for this denotation to be made on the application. So if the sponsor's all right, I'm going to go ahead and move to adopt this using the previous roll.
All right, I think Senator Smitherman wanted to speak on this, correct? All right, so we got the motion, adoption using previous roll. Senator Smitherman, you're recognized.
Thank you. First, let me say this. I support his amendment 100%. So I want to say that. So, and I'm going to vote for it. But I want to get that so you can understand then what vein I'm going to be talking in. It's not anything contrary. It's in support. let me tell you the reason I say that is because if you look on on page 5 and section D, and this is what it says, and I know I feel I know what we are trying to get to. I'm gonna read it, and then I want to talk a little bit about it. This section says, "It shall be unlawful for a third party to knowingly receive a payment or gift for distributing, ordering, requesting, collecting, completing, pre-filing, obtaining, or delivering a voter's absentee ballot application. Any person who violates this subdivision shall be guilty of a Class C felony." What you heard his amendment. Everybody heard him, and I'm for him. But what this section does, this section null and voids his amendment. If his amendment is in here, and this section right here, it's going to null and void it. But why? Because if you have a campaign worker who works for you, and you pay them, your campaign could be your campaign manager or anything, and they go take an application ballot to someone, they have violated this law, and they're going to be guilty of a Class C felony. It don't say pay from a national company who is trying to harvest votes in this state. It doesn't clarify at all. It says if you receive anything of pay and you go and take an application, a blank piece of paper with nobody's name on it, nobody, a blank application, a blank one, and if you take it to them, you are guilty of this. So when we look at what he says on here, apply this to it, and it's going to null and void it out. I'm voting for it, and we need it. But we got to do something here to delineate that we're talking about not your campaign workers in your own campaign, in your GOTV section, get out the vote section. Whoever you got in that section is going to have a problem with this part right here in this bill. You may feel that you're talking about a certain type person coming in and paying money. But the law, it doesn't delineate in here any particular thing except if you receive money and go give a ballot out, an application. So somewhere before we walk out of here, y'all, we got to correct that to deal with what y'all want, which is, I guess, a person coming in, big national company coming in, got big money, spreading it everywhere, paying folks to go vote, giving them a prize or something, all like that. Yeah, I know that's probably what you're trying to eliminate. But to use this broader term, you are taking everybody who work on your campaign that does anything like this, and they receive money from you, they are going to face a problem with this section in here. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. It's too broad. It has to be narrow to address that. Now let me say something to y'all. I know when you hear people talk like me talking, we got some experts in here, and I ain't talking about people, colleagues, that they feel comfortable with saying, I don't think that's the case, what he's saying. Well, I'm going to give you a qualifier. I gave it to you about 2 years ago. I'm going to give you another qualifier. And then, at least I give you a hint that I kind of got an idea of what I'm talking about. When I first walked into this body, the first year, it was a debate up here about the nuclear waste from email and about the nuclear waste from New York. And the body was talking about they gonna charge more because they bring this out-of-state nuclear waste. And just to kind of give an idea, most of my colleagues know it. I was a constitutional law professor in law at law school for 25 years. I ain't trying to say that I know more than anybody in this place, but I'm comfortable with saying it ain't a soul sitting in here that know the Constitution better than me. Some of our legislators downstairs who are lawyers, I taught them in law school. One of them came up, in fact, I taught the minority leader in law school. Okay, so I want to clear that up, that I know what I'm talking about. The next thing, I told them that. They went to court. The Supreme Court had a hearing right down at the old theater. When you come in, Montgomery was right to the right. That's where they had the hearing on this issue. They found the state violated the Equal Protection Clause. The next issue we had was the imported wines, if y'all remember who was here. I stood right at this mic and told you that the Equal Protection Clause is we're going to lose when we go to court because you can't charge two different prices, discriminate against entities in pricing. Took it to court, state lost. The last big one was immigration. And you see me smiling because I can call his name now because he ain't in the Senate. Senator Beeson, former. I stood right there and told him out of these 24 things you got in this bill, 20 of them gonna be found unconstitutional and 4 gonna be found constitutional. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court found all 20 that I said was gonna be unconstitutional, and the 4 that I said wasn't gonna be, and one of the 4 that they found was the E-verification. For employment, E-verification was found constitutional. I only said that to tell you that you've been having a problem with your campaign workers. Don't flake me off. I'm trying to tell you. If you don't straighten this out, the first one that go out there and take a ballot on behalf of your GOTV is going to have problems. So I hope that we straighten that out after we pass his amendment so that it won't null and void his amendment and your campaign workers won't be put out there left by themselves to face this right here. Where's the senator? Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I'm going to yield.
All right, so we got a motion to adopt this amendment using previous roll. Any objection? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Jones amendment's adopted. Thanks, Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Gudger.
All right, Senator Gudger.
Thank you. And I've got one last amendment that we're doing for ourselves and for the.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment, please.
Yeah.
Amendment to the substitute for Senate Bill number 1 by Senator Gudger. Replace line 109 on page 4 with the following. Except in situation governed by section 1711-3F, it shall be unlawful for an individual to submit A. Replace line 121 on page 5 with the following. Except in situations governed by 1711-3F, it shall be unlawful for a third party to. Replace line 127 on page 5 with the following. Except in situations governed by section 1711-3F, it shall be unlawful for a person to knowingly pay.
All right, Senator Gudger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the time and being recognized. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this particular amendment here and what this is we've been have been talking to the utility companies, and when there is an emergency, either out of state or out of your county, and the linemen need to go help for mutual aid, And if they're leaving during that time period where the ballot should be applying for that ballot or being cast, this allows for them to be able to still get their application in, as all this is for the utility companies if there's an emergency. On that, if there's not any rebuttal on that, I'll take a motion to adopt with previous roll.
All right, all right, so we got a motion to adopt using previous roll.
Question.
All right, okay, you're recognized.
Okay.
So this one is the one that we talked about, people who are out on emergencies, but there are medical emergencies that are already in place that you have to sign and get a medical emergency if you know you're going to be out of town.
Right.
Currently. So this one says that, let's say for instance, if there's a tornado in Mississippi tonight, and the election was 10 days ago, and you had the election now, and let's say XYZ company, power company had to go out and work over there, and they may be gone, and they won't be back on election day, and they know that. So they still have to file it within the said time of the applications. They don't get no extra time to do it. We're not saying that, all right?
Correct.
So it's still within
The state law that it is now. No.
still within the state law time.
Right.
But if they know that they're out, just like being out of town working.
That's it.
You know you're gonna be out of town.
Yeah, there's reasons for absentee ballots that you can go and apply for absentee ballots.
Correct.
Obviously, it's the same thing. We're just making sure that in the state law, it's under emergency. So if they're having a tornado in Mississippi, they don't lose the right to vote if they're over there. That's all. When they're helping with mutual aid to the other state or another county. That's all this particular thing is.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that we're not creating another special means of that happening, that they get some extra time or something. It's still the same period of time that they have to apply for the application, and they still go through the application process, and then get the ballot and mail the ballot back in, or they can vote before they leave town.
You are correct. There's no extra time on the amendment whatsoever.
Okay, I just want to make sure
Okay.
that we wasn't giving any extra time somewhere
All right.
Thank you.
in an extra category.
All right.
All right, no problem.
Okay, so you got a motion to adopt using previous roll.
Hold up, gentle lady from Mobile wants to speak.
All right, Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Gudger, why don't we have something in place in Alabama that a person can vote absentee legally without having to give any excuse?
If it's an emergency, it's actually already in state law, but there were some utility companies that said.
No. What I'm asking is why do we have to have an excuse or a reason to vote absentee? I think as long as you are putting in that application legally, as long as you get your ballot legally and you're the only one voting on that ballot, that anybody should be able to vote absentee. I remember one election, and actually I was on the ballot. I think this was in '98, and I ended up getting put in the hospital the day before the election. And of course, I had planned to vote, but I didn't get a chance to. And I knew the laws of voting absentee. You had to have an excuse. You're going to be out of town, or you're disabled, da-da-da-da-da. But I couldn't even get an emergency ballot brought to me or whatever. I ended up unhooking all the stuff and sneaking out of the hospital. Ended up in the morgue, getting out of the hospital to go vote, and then came back to the hospital. But if it was that I could have voted absentee without needing an excuse, I could have voted absentee at any time, even not knowing that I was going to be in the hospital, but anybody can just vote absentee if they want to. It makes it a lot simpler. Sometimes elections, the lines get longer than I don't know what. It should help the process. So why don't we have something where people can vote absentee without having to have an excuse? Because I guarantee you it's a high percentage of those that do vote absentee have lied while they're voting absentee, because they didn't have an excuse on that thing that was listed.
Yeah. I think that's a different bill instead of this one. At the same point, I understand what you're thinking on that, which is really no excuse absentee, and understand the reasons for that, especially what you just said, because it was an emergency. But that's a different bill than this, and here at the last hour, I definitely do not want to have to make it.
No, it's not a different bill. That could be an amendment on this bill since you're dealing with applications of absentee, voting absentee.
Right.
This is the bill where that amendment could go. But I'm just wondering why, and I have actually introduced a bill to that point that you didn't have to have an excuse. And of course, it was DOA when it got here. But I'm just wondering why, what is the thought process behind why the Republican Party would not want it to be a no excuse needed to vote absentee?
I am no chairman for the Republican Party by any means, but I do know that state law 17-11-3, which shows the absentee balloting process, lists out 8 different things, really 9 different things that you're able.
Right, I know that, and that's what I'm referring to.
So if you're asking me to change that law, that's different than what I think this law is. So I do not.
No, but if we put it in this law, that would replace that law and it would repeal that section. But anyway, I just wanted to know the answer, and you said you can't give me that.
Can't give you that.
But thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Figures.
Thank you, Senator.
All right, so got a motion to adopt the Senator Gudger amendment using previous rule. Any objection? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
All right, 35 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Gudger amendment is adopted.
You got another amendment?
All right, Senator Gudger.
I can let my colleagues be recognized across the way, or I'm ready to adopt a motion on the bill if you'd like to, sir.
I have this other amendment that we agreed on, hadn't got on it yet.
Which one is that, real quick? Let's talk about that.
The one where we talked about the distributing and collection and,
All right. You want to go ahead and introduce the amendment? And while they're reading it, you can.
well, Senator Smitherman, could you just talk until we?
Yeah.
All right, Senator Smitherman.
Okay. I'm not sure if this will address what I was talking about, but it sounds like it may address what I was just talking about a few minutes earlier, and that is just simply that we don't want to set our own people who work for us up to fail. I guess that's the word you use, where they're out there trying to work to get you elected, and you got to work to get them out of jail because they have violated this by simply going out here and working. And I'm still trying to figure out, let me see, this is the back part. How is it a problem? Because I'm gonna take a blank something, do anything, just take a blank something, and I'm going by the courthouse. Let me say it like this. The area I stay in is probably the majority of people retired. Like a little quiet area. And when I say this, I would probably say about 40%, I'm not a spring chicken, but about 40% of the people, they're older than me. And so I kind of look out for them, and some of them are ladies, widows, ladies. And so I'm kind of like the guy that look out for them on the street and stuff. And so they said, well, you go down to the courthouse a lot, and so bring me back absentee ballot application. I got problems if I do that. I got problems. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to tell y'all. I got a problem. If I pick that application blank up and take it and hand it to them, I ain't got to do nothing. Hand it to them. Put it in the door. And then I got a problem. I don't fill it out. I don't help them. I don't do nothing. I just take the blank application to them. This bill saying that it is a problem. And so I hope this amendment will address that problem. I don't know. I don't really know it. I hear what it ultimately do when it gets there, but I hope it does. Because that is the problem that I'm saying. And remember, y'all, how did I start out today? I talked about the airplane. I talked about the wings. This is what we talking about now is what the wings hitting. See, we trying to make sure that we deal with these incidental things that you all and this bill was not designed to get your campaign workers a felony charge. It was not, you didn't come, that's one of the reasons, and I'm just talking out of what I think. None of y'all told me that. That's one of the reasons why we had a bill last year. Because it had, well, if you help your grandmama, you have violated the bill. You remember that? Y'all remember the bill? Because y'all talked about this in y'all caucus. I know you did. I know we did. And you know, we wasn't privy to nothing different than what y'all got, the information. And y'all said, okay, we got to straighten this out. And this is y'all's effort to try to straighten it out. But what you didn't take under consideration, and of course I wasn't thinking either way in that vein, but it's what I just said there in that section, that if your worker, the person you pay, you could give them some gas money. Forget a salary. You could give them some gas money because they don't have any gas. You have given them a thing of value, and they have violated this right. You may be saying, in your mind, you might be saying, Smith up there saying that ain't the case, but just remember this. You're not the judge. The judge makes the interpretation. So whether it does. And if you put them out there, put your people out there to dry like that, that actually could happen. Unintended, that wasn't your goal. But now, and we gone. By the way, we gone from the legislature. We done passed this bill, gone. Now you're out there campaigning. Let me bag it out. You bag it out and say this. You gonna see the results of this year in November. We won't pass it in time for the primary, because the primary is in March. But when November comes, if you don't straighten this out before we leave out of here in this bill, when November comes, it's gonna be some major problems. Major, and especially in the new district, them people running down there. I mean, it's going to be a major problem for them. A major, because if they don't get somebody to help them to get these blank absentees out, ain't no way they gonna can walk around. How many counties in that? We got somebody in running, ain't they? How many counties in that district, the new district? 12 counties. 13 counties. For real, a candidate gonna walk around their own self and do that? They gonna do that for real? They can't get around everybody. They got to have somebody to help them in their campaign. And if they give them gas money to ride around in the 13 counties, they have violated this section. So I hope before we have the final vote that you straighten this section out. I ain't even trying to tell you what you ought to do to straighten it out, because that's too incumbents. I'm just making a plea for you to straighten it out so we don't have that to happen to the people out there just trying to campaign. Some of these people who work on your campaigns, they're making minimum wage. Some of them are just looking for some money to get some food on their family's table. Some of them are unemployed, and this is the seasonal employment, and they trying to get some money to help the families. And they ain't gonna bit more know this is even in the bill. College students, they don't even know it. That's the sad part. Do we think that they shepherdize all our bills and sit down and read them? These people are trying to put food on the table. They ain't sitting around reading no bills. So if we don't straighten it out, they gonna have some major problems. Some major problems. So I hope that as those brilliant minds are collected over there in the corner, that when they come out that corner, they'll have something that'll address this problem that can please y'all and me too. So I hope that is the case. You know, it was some information. I'm gonna share this with y'all while they're over there talking. It's some information, and these are some questions. What is the cost of implication? Okay, what's the cost? What is it gonna cost to put this together? What effect is it gonna have on voter turnout? Public consultations. What happened over in that corner? Want to still put folks in jail? I'm asking a question. You know, I'm not saying that that's what anybody said. I'm asking questions. Somebody please answer me. I'm just asking. After the talk, is the verdict that they go to jail? The campaign workers gonna go to jail, and that's what the verdict is? Anybody want to answer that? Oh, they go to jail? Oh, okay then. Well, one thing I'll say about this, and I will say this. I'm gonna say this. This ain't got nothing to do this issue right here. I can say this just as smilingly on my face as I can. This ain't got nothing to do with race. Cause y'all were gonna go to jail if they take these forms out, just like whatever part over here, they workers gonna go. This ain't gonna set aside that one party folks that violate this gonna happen, and then the other party folks that don't. That's why I'm talking to y'all. I'm trying to tell you. Remember I told you, I'm 4-0. I'm finna be 5-0. I told you, the wines, the nuclear waste, the immigration. I told you now, I was right. I'm finna be right on this one. I'm just trying to tell you. You need to listen. See, if you don't listen, I guarantee y'all be running back here and talking about a special session. You don't care what it costs. You have me back down here in some more special session. We got to correct that. You know. So I hope that you come up with something. If you can't come up with something, just take it out. But you got to come up with something. You got to. Come on, y'all. We got to come up with something. So I see some great minds sitting around out there. I know. I see. Let me see how many I see over there. Let me look. I'm sitting around over there. I see some legal minds over there. I see some pharmaceutical minds over there. I see some business minds over there. I see some education minds over there. I see some brilliant minds over there. I told you I see lawyers. They know I'm telling the truth. Now, they know I'm telling the truth. Whether you change the thing or not, that's why they laugh. They know I'm telling the truth that what gonna happen, y'all. I'm telling you, that's what's gonna happen. So come up with some solution. I don't mind standing here talking until you come up with a solution. Yeah, I get it right back to you so you can tell us the solution. But we gotta have a solution, y'all. Come on now. I know we got the little 5 o'clock receptions. We got 2 of them, 2 good ones. So I know that. And I ain't mad at nobody who want to go, who go. But let's don't rush out of here before we handle this part right here. We've done well today overall in the process. I want to thank y'all because that's what I was talking about in the beginning. And you have gone through a very good process. You'll be commended about the process. Now, I didn't say about the bill. I said the process. But you'll be commended about the process. But you know how, when you run in them races, and you get toward the finish line, and sometimes folks want to coast across the finish line, and somebody come by in the back and just pass them and dip that head like that and win. Well, if we don't correct this now, when that worker for you dip that hand with that application, they're gonna lose. When they walk down and dip it to that person just like that, they just have messed up. Not even knowing the zealousness of them to get out voters for you and everything. They may go do this in benign to your knowledge. But if you don't straighten it out, they're gonna come back to haunt you. Say what? Okay. I'm on you.
Go ahead. Go on.
All right.
No, if you want.
Just let you know I have.
Oh, okay. They're not ready.
Oh, they're not?
They're talking. So I'll continue.
Did you want?
It's equal protection. Last time I yielded to her first. She know I'm telling the truth, so this time she yielding to me first. That's all. She gonna get it, but she just yielded to me. Come on, son. Come on.
All right, Senator Coleman Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You can't compete with Senator Smitherman. I mean, he is the Smither man. I really want to talk to my colleagues for a minute, because really what we're changing is going to really impact all of us. In 2022, and sometimes we keep up with election returns and sometimes we don't, but this was with former Secretary John Merrill, anticipated a voter turnout of 45 to 50% of the registered voters, whereas the turnout was actually stood at 49.8%. But the actual turnout, contrary to what he thought, in the 2022 primary elections was 23.4. That translated into 8,050 votes, 463 ballots that was cast, less than a quarter of the registered voters in Alabama. Statewide, in the general election, it was even lower, 38.5%. Approximately 1.4 million of the 3.68 million people that were registered to vote. This is really going to hit the rural areas and those of you who represent rural areas. I live in urbanized areas. My polling places are close together. I can really drive my whole district. Doesn't take a whole day. I can drive my whole district. Most of us that's in an urbanized area don't have that problem. But I remember going to one of my colleagues' funeral, and we drove and I kept saying, are we there yet? It's a big county, and you're driving through several different counties. Now, those of you who represent rural counties, you know what I'm talking about. You represent large counties, sparsely populated, and you have to drive several hours to just cover those areas and get around to people. So it's really going to impact those of you who represent rural counties, sparsely populated, and trying to reach your voters. All this talk about ballot harvesting and centered around absentee ballots, I just pulled off of November 8th general election 2022, and I just highlighted all of those counties that had 5% or above using absentee ballots. People who use absentee ballots is really not that high. But the first one that we have, well, I said 4.7% started with Barber County. You go down, then you have 5.7 in Bullock County, Butler County 5.3, 5.6% in Conecuh County, Dallas County 5.8, Hale County 6.5, and I'm looking at, even in Jefferson County, our voter request for absentee ballot is only 2.9%. Going on down, some of the highest ones really It's like Perry County, 12.0. And again, these people work. There's no industry in that area. They either work in the adjacent county, so they have to drive. Most people are not there on election day, so yes, they vote absentee ballot. Wilcox County, 12.4%, 8.6% in Montgomery County. Let me see, no, that's not Montgomery, that's Monroe County, and 9.9% in Lowndes County. You don't have high turnouts or requests or people voting absentees, but you see who is being impacted by no fault of their own. People live in rural areas. They live there because they enjoy that quality of life. They want to enjoy and participate in the political process and paying their civic duty and voting. But we are making it harder and harder for everyday citizens to simply try to make a living, going to work, putting food on the table, and exercising your civil rights, which is the right to vote. Alabama had just under 13% of its registered voters to cast ballots, which was the lowest percentage in any primary election, and this was in 2022, it says that this was the lowest turnout in 35 years. I'm sure you all probably remember those headlines. The point that I'm making here is that we don't have people who are participating in the electoral process right now. And right now, we are putting up barriers to voting. You hear us on this side of the aisle talk a lot about voter suppression, pushing people down. And that's what we are doing. But understand, you are doing this to your own constituents who vote for you. We all need these votes. We need to turn people out. We need to encourage them to participate in the political process. And I really think that we are not doing ourselves a service. We are not doing the state a service. We are showing our true colors. These are everyday hardworking citizens. They are your voters, they are my voters. But I say to you, if you live in rural Alabama, understand your voters are going to be impacted. All we're saying is that these are people that are out there exercising Good Samaritan policies, citizens helping citizens. And again, in the rural areas, you don't have transportation. You know how hard it is. Well, I tell you, how many of you don't turn in expenses when you are driving from one county to out of your district? Or you say, well, you can't turn in expenses if you within your district. But again, your district may include 3 or 4 counties that you got to drive in. That's gas and that expense. It's a lot. How many? 8? 8? You got 8 counties. My God. 8 counties. Again, one person can't do that. Why would it be a crime to give somebody gas money? We get paid gas for coming down here. And for some of you, when you drive your district, Senator Stewart, if he's got 8 counties, he's certainly driving a longer distance than most of us to get down here. I'm really hoping for whatever intentions, and Senator Gudger, I have the highest respect for you. You have been an honorable person. You have worked with us and accepted amendments and trying. And sometimes, you know, if you put salt in the cake and start it with sugar, and bake the cake, you can't take that out. That cake just got to be thrown away. And this may be one bill that we don't need to push right now until we really sit down and look at and ask ourselves, do we really need this? Is there a real issue? And again, I say, if somebody is violating the law, I don't think a person should be paid to actually pay a person to vote or pay a person in exchange for a ballot. But these are people who work in our campaigns, or they're working to exercise the political process. In this case, you could not even buy lunch for a person because that is a thing of value. All of us, most of us, if you have campaign workers and they're standing out there working for you all day or encouraging people to, I've sat out there in front of stores or whatever, encouraging people to vote. When we had COVID, and this bill doesn't address that issue, you talk about emergency issues, but we may have another COVID issue. And I remember during that period of time where we used to go to the nursing homes and they looked forward to us coming. Or senior citizen centers, and we would get all the ballots, absentee ballots and everything. Yes, if you want to call it harvesting, bring on the harvest. Because these were a group of elderly senior citizens that needed help. To help them fill out their applications. Now the ballot went to them. The ballot went to them, to their address. And yes, some of them, we did go back and assist if they called us and said we needed help. But this bill says you are a criminal. You can be put in jail for up to a year. If I'm not mistaken, you can be fined up to $6,000. And if you follow that thread down, some of us are going to be put in jail. I just want us to think about what we're doing to the citizens. Senator, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to yield the rest of my time.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Senator
you,
Singleton.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I want to offer an amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to the substitute for Senate Bill 1 by Senator Singleton. Replace lines 122 through 123 on page 5 with the following. Knowingly receive a payment or any item of monetary value for collecting, completing, pre-filling. Replace lines 128 through 129 on page 5 with the following. Or provide any item of monetary value to a third party to collect, pre-fill, complete, obtain, or deliver a.
All right, Senator Singleton.
Mr. President, I know the bill, we struck a couple of things off that sentence, and there was some language that we didn't agree on, so they're stated in that amendment, especially about third parties. And I guess there's nothing in here to identify what is a third party. Because if I'm a campaign, is my campaign manager considered a third party? You know, or my, consultant considered a third party that I legally hire to come and work my campaign? And I think somewhere this has to be cleared up. And while this amendment doesn't clear up because we didn't agree with that language, and then we were able to take out some other language that allowed us to be able to go and assist and be able to do it without people paying me, especially if someone asks me to help them. And we could do that without signing their name, and or we can be able to witness it. If somebody marked with an X, we'll be able to do that. While I'm not totally 100% happy with this amendment either, and I know there's others didn't like this amendment because we took out some other language, but I think that this at least has helped us to get to some point. But I guess to identify what is a third party is going to need to be defined at some point. Who is that third party? Because our campaigns hire people all the time, and I just don't know who we're going to make that consideration of that is to whom we're going to go out and pre-file an application before it gets there or deliver it. I think what we took out, the ordering, distributing, and have you out of that language out, because we want people to be able to, if I go knock on someone's door, I want to be able to say, hey, here's an application, I got one here with me, you can now fill it out, and if they ask me to help them, I should be able to help them fill it out. And I think that this amendment allows us to do that. On the other hand, we're still unclear on some of this other language that I hope that we can get passed before this bill goes for signature to the governor. I don't know what's going to go on in the House, but I know, we're working through language up here, and I appreciate what you worked through. I know you guys, some of your members think they put a hole in. I don't understand what the hole is because they can't explain to me what the hole is. And let me just say this before I go, because the gentleman reminded me of something. I don't want something to be misconstrued or misinterpreted, because he said that I said something to him when I first ran for city council in 1984. I ran against the guy who owned the local newspaper. We were running at large. There wasn't no districts or what have you. We were running at large. And I beat the gentleman at the poll, okay? Here we are with a city of 63% African Americans, 30-some-odd% whites and others, okay? I beat him at the poll. And at the end of the day, he beat me by 50 votes on absentee. Well, I can't say he did anything illegal. I just didn't know the absentee game. And I said to this gentleman in his body that I swore then that I would never let that happen to me again. It wasn't that I was going to go out and do something illegal or go and harvest some ballots or something, for him to bring that back up to me now, today. I did that, I said, because of my knowledge. He won't beat me at it because I'm going to learn how to do that myself, because it's a legal process. I never swore that the man did anything illegal. I got beat at the game. I just never heard of absentee ballots at the time. He did. He was an old incumbent. So I vowed not to be whooped again by absentee, because I know how to go out and get the process and make the process work. That's what I explained to the gentleman. So if the gentleman was basing this bill based on something that I told him, he thought that I'm out here doing some ballot harvesting, he's wrong. He just didn't understand the language that I'm telling him, that I would not be beat by that again, because I'll learn it just like that man learned it. And I never got beat by it again because I understood that process. So I really appreciate you for taking this amendment. I think it's not all what I want in this amendment, but I think it makes the bill a little bit better and gives people the right to vote and the ability to be able to get assistance if they need assistance.
All right, do you want to make a motion?
Make a motion for adoption, use the previous roll without objection.
All right, use the long roll. Okay. Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Eight ayes, 26 nays, one abstention. The Senator Singleton amendment fails. All right. Senator Smitherman.
Thank you. Senator, I just want to say to you that I appreciate the efforts that you put forward. You know, that was what I was talking about when I first walked up here to the mic, the process that I've seen and the consideration. And I appreciate the body giving consideration to many of the things and appreciate your leadership and that aspect of it. And so I wanted to just tell you that, you know, I don't have to get up and tell you that, you know, I don't fully agree with this, but that's not what I'm talking about right now. I want to talk about the process. And I just appreciate that a whole lot. You know, I did, just for the record, I didn't expect anything different from you than the process, you exercising the process. And I just want to tell you, I appreciate that very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Senator Smitherman.
Yield back to you.
All right, Senator Gudger.
Senator Smitherman, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me on both sides of the fence here that we can work together, walk out of here still being friends, even though sometimes we disagree on things. So thank you for saying that. At this time, I'll take a motion to pass the bill, or make a motion to pass the bill as amended.
Using long roll?
Long
All right,
roll,
Secretary,
please.
call the long roll.
This is an aye.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger.
Aye.
Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shellnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Twenty-seven ayes, 8 nays. Senate Bill 1 passes amended. Thanks, Senator Gudger.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have a point of personal privilege?
You're recognized.
I'd like to thank the Senate and the body for working on both sides of the aisle for this particular bill. I know it's been a little hard at times, and we've had to work through some and overcome certain situations, and we're all here for the right reasons, to represent the people back in our districts. I thank you for the time and for everything that you said at the mic. I also want to say thank you to the Secretary of State's office, Secretary Wes Allen and his administration. So besides that, thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thanks, Senator Gudger. All right, Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me also add my word of appreciation to all the senators that were involved and engaged in the legislation that we dealt with today. I know there's several events going on tonight, so thanks for your hard work while we did the people's business today. With that, Mr. President, I'm going to make a motion that we stand adjourned until 3 p.m. on Wednesday, February the 14th, Valentine's Day, and leave the Journal open to receive committee reports.
All right, you heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thanks, Senator Reed.
Mr. President.